Brisbane's iconic Plough Inn Hotel has been a watering hole since 1885. Built close to the wharves at South Brisbane, it was a favourite haunt for those associated with the river. Wharfies, sailors, merchants, workers of all sorts, these hard-drinking men had a beer over its bar. It survived time, progress and tragedy. Today, it is part of South Bank and is as popular as ever. Like all old hotels, the Plough has a few spirits, one of which is said to haunt this room, formerly room number 7. It's said to be the wife of a former publican who, in a fit of rage, threw her over the front veranda of the hotel to her death. That story is said to date to the 1920s or 30s, and I'm still doing research to try and establish its origins. But there's an even older ghost story that dates back to the 19th century. It's said to be the apparition of a young girl seen on these stairs that lead from the ground floor to the upper floor. In 1890, William Brown was the licensee for the hotel. He lived here on site with his wife and family. His wife, Selina, and himself were both born in Germany, but William had lived in the States so long that he was regarded as a Queenslander. He'd run many businesses and was well respected. His firstborn child, Selina Mary Brown, worked as a waitress here at the hotel.
The 2011 floods in Brisbane were not the first, nor will they be the last. In the late 1880s and early 1890s, Queensland was struck by a series of unprecedented rain events, which caused widespread devastation and tragedy. On the 10th of March 1890, a cyclone crossed the coast at Maryborough, dumping heavy rain over southeast Queensland. The Brisbane River rose to 7 feet above its 1887 flood peak, which was the highest on record. At South Brisbane, buildings began to be submerged. By the 13th of March, the Brisbane River had reached its height at 7 a.m. and began to subside. 5 people had already drowned in the floodwaters up to that date, and tragically on the 13th there would be another. The Plough Inn Hotel, despite beginning to flood, continued to serve beer to those that could reach them via rowboat. 16-year-old Selina Brown had spent the morning securing furniture and moving other items from the floodwater which had inundated the bottom floor of the hotel. By noon it was hot, and Selina asked her mother if she could go for a swim. Her mother said no, but a few minutes later she was in the water. She and an older man called Herbert Morgan, a mariner who was living nearby in Maryvale Street, were taking a swim to cool off from the heat.
They swam out from this veranda into the backyard of the hotel in water that was 11 feet, that's 3.6 metres deep. Within moments, however, Morgan was exhausted.
Selina wanted to stay in the water, but he insisted that they swam back. Morgan's version of events was that he felt Selina grab at his singlet as they swam back to the veranda, but she went under and disappeared. Exhausted, he intended to try to find her, but fainted. Selina's mother heard someone cry out, and Selina's body was retrieved from the water. Attempts to revive her failed. The doctor was called, and soon after, Selina was pronounced dead.
Selina's funeral was held on Friday the 14th of March, the day after she died. The funeral procession made its way from their residence, the Plough Inn Hotel, down here to the South Brisbane General Cemetery, where she was laid to rest in what would become the family plot.
A beautiful tombstone was later erected by her parents, their grief enshrined in the words of a poem. A light is from our household gone, the voice we loved is stilled, a place is vacant at our hearth, which never can be filled. 6 weeks later, a magisterial inquiry was held at the South Brisbane Police Court on the 21st of April 1890 to determine the cause of death of Selina. At the inquest, stunning testimony was heard. A widow, Ellen Webb, whose residence looked into the yard of the Plough Inn Hotel, claimed she saw through her front window a man playing with Selina push her backwards under the water 2 or 3 times. Mrs. Webb said that Selina cried out to stop it. Under oath, she suggested Morgan's actions had resulted in Selina's drowning. Her daughter was also a witness and verified her mother's version of events. The doctor also gave evidence. There was no evidence of foul play, but he did point out that if someone had held her down, there wouldn't be any marks on her body. The truth of the tragedy is in letters on Selina's grave. Accidentally drowned. William Brown would continue to be licensee until 1891, when he lost a court case with the owner of the Plough Inn over damages caused by the flood. 3 years after their first child died, William and Selina had their last, whom they named Selina Mary in memory of their drowned daughter. This child was born in the midst of another terrible flood event. The 1893 flood was the worst in Brisbane history. Selina's father died in 1899, aged 57, and was laid to rest with his daughter. Her mother died in 1915, aged 65 years, and was buried with her husband and firstborn child. Incredibly, Selina's namesake lived until she was in her 80s and had her own family, living to a ripe old age.
"2020 will mark 130 years since Selina died and 150 years since South Brisbane Cemetery was officially opened. To mark these important anniversaries, Brisbane Ghost Tours will be restoring the Brown family plot. A percentage of all revenue coming from the tours is directed towards such projects. We thank you for 20 odd years of your support, and we look forward to seeing you on a ghost tour soon.